Good afternoon. My name is Taylor Breckenridge. I'm the president of the University Faculty Senate. On behalf of the Senate and the Office of the Provost, I'd like to welcome you all to Provost Gillespie's University Address. Now in her third year as Provost, Dr. Gillespie has dedicated the last 25 years to Wake Forest University and its academic mission. Over the past 3 years, she has led the university's strategic framing effort, hired 4 deans, and reorganized the Provost's office. Since joining the history faculty in 1999, Provost Gillespie has served as Associate Provost for Academic Initiatives and was named Presidential Endowed Chair of Southern History in 2013, before becoming Dean of the College in 2015. And on July 1st, 2022, she became Wake Forest's eighth Provost. After this address, Provost Gillespie will join me and in a round of questions and answers. Those are based on faculty and staff submissions to a form that the Faculty Senate created. Then, after that, we invite you to join us and the Provost leadership team for a reception upstairs. Thank you all for joining us here today. This address will be recorded and made available on the Provost website. Now, please join me in welcoming Provost Michele Gillespie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for braving the vagaries of the weather today. It has been quite something else. It means a lot to me that you are here. I know your work days are very, very demanding. And I want to give a special thank you and a special shout out to the Senate and to Senate President Taylor Breckenridge for sponsoring this talk and for the ways that the Senate is committed to the centrality and engagement and exchange across all of our constituencies on behalf of the greater good of the university. So thank you very much. Now, normally when I give my provost address, I highlight all of the great academic achievements that have happened across the university. And I celebrate the excellence and commitment of our students, staff, and faculty. And this does remain my overall plan today. There are so many wonderful things happening at Wake, in and out of our classrooms, on the campus, around the city, around the country, around the world, in relationship to what Wake Forest does, and does really, really well. But I'm going to ask you to bear with me, because I'm also going to name the challenges that higher ed and Wake Forest are facing right now, especially in this difficult and unprecedented moment. I want to put them a little bit in the context of U.S. history, because that's who I am, historian. And I do that because I think contextualizing is what humanities and social sciences folks do especially well, and why, I might add, we always will need those disciplinary lenses in higher ed and in the world. And I'm also going to be reminding you that we can handle change as a community when we work together to build a strong strategy that reflects our deepest held values. We've done that in the past, and I'm absolutely confident we will do that now and into the future. Because the bottom line here is that we really do have an amazing community at Wake. And we are part of a strong and vibrant national higher education community that is, in fact, the envy of the world. Don't ever forget that. Moreover, Wake Forest plays a valued role in this dynamic higher ed world, and there is a reason for this. We're recognized for the rigor and the quality of our liberal arts-based education, for our intense commitment to student-faculty engagement, for our nimble entrepreneurial mindset, for our embrace of leadership and character, and for our awesome graduates from college, the business school, the graduate school, the divinity school, the law school, the medical school, the school for professional studies, who go out and do such incredibly impressive things in their careers and for humanity. And I don't want you to forget that you are the ones who make that excellence happen. I want to underscore that each of you, each and every day in this auditorium, each of you in this auditorium, and all of our colleagues beyond the auditorium, are important and amazing and doing amazing things. You make Wake Forest strong in this moment and for the future. Never forget that you are brilliant, passionate educators who shape bright young people's future in powerful, lifelong ways, whatever your role in this university and whatever challenges we will be facing. And remember that people who come together have moved proverbial mountains, and we can do that again. So let me be clear. This is a time when all of higher ed, including Wake Forest, is confronting some of the biggest challenges we have faced in the last 50 years or so, longer than just about any of us have been here at Wake, even me. But I would also argue that some of these challenges have been around for quite a while, and higher ed and Wake Forest have weathered them before and will do so again. One big challenge for all of us right now is a public deeply distrustful of higher ed. Yet, this is not something new. One of my favorite books, and I pull it out every decade or so and reread it, was published in 1963 and won a Pulitzer Prize, is Richard Hofstadter's book, Anti-Intellectualism in American Life. Hofstadter not only explains the 200-year-old social and cultural scorn for the life of the mind in America, but also how and why academics have been a force for good in democratic society. Hofstadter believed that intellectual values, including an appreciation of skepticism and nuance, and a rejection of absolutism and dogma, were crucial for democracy. Interestingly, his next book, The Paranoid Style in American Politics, published in 1964, built on this conception, arguing that there is a deep strain of conspiratorial thinking running throughout American history. Another big challenge we are facing is this new administration's scrutiny and reorganization of the long-standing fruitful partnership between the federal government and higher education that began after World War II. It's a powerful, and is a powerful relationship. It's produced two phenomenal social goods. First is that more people have been able to go to college, from the GI Bill for veterans to Pell Grants, by making college more affordable for all. And second, it has spawned groundbreaking university-based research and innovation that has generated millions of jobs, dramatically improved healthcare, delivered phenomenal new technologies, and bettered society as a whole. Breaking apart this 80-year-old partnership puts all of these remarkable accomplishments in jeopardy. Then there are the multiple federal directives challenging higher ed's decades-old commitment to DEI. Beginning in the 1960s, programs first established through the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964 and then housed under the Department of Education ensured more educational opportunities for students of color. These efforts evolved to create a more inclusive and welcoming campus environment, extending from admissions to student affairs, and resulting in new offices for equal opportunity and civil rights, focusing on Title IX and disability accommodations, and creating new pathways for literally millions of students. Pushbacks against these equity efforts and their role in institutional excellence has occurred before. But I have to say, this time we stand to lose even more if these policies are reversed. As if public trust issues and new administration challenges to higher ed core values were not difficult enough to contend with, college athletics is in the throes of transformation as well. Following a long history of legal challenges to amateurism in college athletics, including 25 years of legal action against the NCAA, Judge Claudia Wilkin granted preliminary approval of the NCAA settlement on October 7, 2024, resolving 3 antitrust lawsuits filed by former college athletes. As a result, the House settlement is awarding $2.8 billion in damages to be funded by the NCAA over the next 10 years, as well as giving permission for schools to share revenue with athletes beginning next academic year. This ruling upends college athletics in many ways, as we have known it. And finally, I want to look at an internal higher ed challenge that no one ever really likes to talk about, and that is faculty and staff burnout. Across higher ed, employees in academia report they are working longer hours since COVID, feeling less supported by academic leadership, and experiencing rapid turnover in their ranks. They also describe students needing much more of their time, even if working with students remains the brightest spot in their working lives. Burnout in higher ed is actually not new at all. It was identified first among healthcare workers in the 1970s, and the concept was soon applied to academia because faculty even then faced growing workloads, greater publication pressures, and more administrative demands. But it is a persistent problem in our profession, and some would argue it is growing. So here we are. I've rolled out a lot of, well, I can hear how somber it is. We do have a a lot of very real challenges in higher ed. I tried to contextualize them, but not sugarcoat them. These challenges are playing out on our very own Wake Forest campus. Even if, and I want to underscore this, we're in a very fortunate position compared to most colleges and universities. We are not suffering declining enrollments, and in fact, we're building stronger classes with each succeeding year. We almost always are able to recruit and retain the best and brightest faculty and staff. Our budgets have not been slashed, we have not had any layoffs, and we have not altered our programs or curriculum in response to these newest external pressures. While all these actions are extreme ones that we would hope not to implement here, they are happening at other colleges and universities all around the country and just down I-40. We can also use the historian's lens to help us make sense of these things. One of my favorite higher ed books, and I shared this with the business school the other day, is David Lavery's A Perfect Mess. It was published in 2018. Lavery reminds us that the American system of higher education is in fact really unique. Unlike the European university, which was created by the medieval Roman Catholic Church and grew strong under the rising nation state in the early modern period, America's church and state were so enervated and unreliable that in order to prosper, higher ed relied almost exclusively on the market, at least until the 1950s. This made American higher ed highly adaptable, better able to take advantage of emerging opportunities, cleverer at building political and economic support, and very responsive to changing market demands compared to universities elsewhere around the globe. As a result, American higher education emerged by the mid-20th century as a unique mix of the populist, the practical, and the elite in a single complex system. In many respects, and ironically, I suppose, the challenges we are facing today reflect American higher ed's amazing success. It has become so important in our society that society seeks more and more accountability from us, wants more and more from us, and measures it carefully in the efficient delivery of education, resulting in good jobs, and in contributions to the expanding economy. And these are important contributions. Education changes lives, and strong economies provide more opportunities. But what universities also do, and what makes American higher ed so exemplary, is provide a wide array of other social functions too. We act as a laboratory for pressing social problems. We are a community for intellectuals to pursue whatever questions seem most important and interesting. We are a repository for the knowledge needed to address problems that haven't yet emerged. We are a social world in which we develop young people to be good citizens. And we are a wonderful place for nurturing creativity and exploration. And yes, we are indeed a classroom for training future workers. Lavery argues that American higher ed is organizationally messy. It has all kinds of decentralized departments and programs and centers that make little sense in terms of formal business structures, and to outsiders can seem too opaque and complex to get things done. But that very messiness makes higher ed strong and resilient and ensures its ongoing high social value. Wake Forest, I would argue, is our own perfect mess. Organizationally inchoate at times, but always guided by our shared values and shaped by incredibly talented people doing good work day in and day out. This means that Wake Forest can respond to and withstand the inevitable challenges, big and small, that come our way. But given all these real challenges right now, even with the knowledge that Wake Forest has been adapting for nearly 200 years, what do we do now to get us to the exciting vision we outlined for ourselves in the strategic framework less than 2 years ago? Yes, our environment is pretty tricky at the moment. What we do have strategies that balance the short term with the long term, and that will make Wake Forest even stronger down the line. Let's begin by taking a look at grants and federal funding changes. Some of the most important federal funding we receive is financial aid based, and especially our Pell Grants, which are a critical source of financial aid for students, demonstrating the greatest economic need. Pell Grants help us recruit the most socioeconomically diverse, balanced undergraduate class we can. We know the government predicts a significant shortfall in Pell dollars in the coming years. Congress will have to decide on the future of Pell funding shortly, and Wake Forest needs Pell support. The good news is there is no indication right now that Pell is under review. Then there's federal funding for our critically important research and scholarship. We have outstanding faculty members securing federal funds in virtually all disciplines and schools. We've been funded in recent years by most federal agencies, including the NIH, NSF, DOD, USAID, and NEH. While we can't boast the funding dollars that the medical school can, our faculty are collaborators on many of these med school grants. And while we do not receive anything close to the dollars awarded at major R1s, we have steadily grown our awards over time, and they are absolutely essential for so much of our research work, supporting grad students and postdocs, cutting-edge equipment, travel, and really important experiential learning opportunities for our undergrads. Some of our biggest awards have allowed us to link learning, research, and pro humanitate in exciting, uniquely Wake Forest ways, as in our USAID-funded project, CINCIA, the Center for Amazonian Scientific Innovation in Peru. Affiliated with the Sabin Center for Environment and Sustainability, the work of CINCIA scientists in forestry, mercury toxicity, fish and water quality, and education has been truly transformational and heralded around the world. Unfortunately, funding for USAID has been decimated and the CINCIA program terminated by the federal government. We remain hopeful that other funders, like the U.S. World Wildlife Fund and a host of Peruvian government agencies and NGOs, as well as our own crowdsourcing efforts, can resurrect this work. But for now, CINCIA has been closed down, jobs eliminated, and cutting-edge programs ended. And then in 2022, the Department of Education awarded partners Winston-Salem State, Salem College, Wake Forest, and Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools a $4.7 million grant to educate, train, and support 13 teachers in Winston-Salem's highest need schools, epitomizing what Pro Humanitate is all about. This program has just been terminated as well. So what is our strategy for responding to these significant funding changes? It's threefold. First and foremost, you will recall that President Wente has put together a university-wide strategy steering committee led by our General Counsel, Brian White, and AVP for Government Affairs, Julia Jackson-Newsom, that is inventorying and studying the new changes, consulting with legislators, peer schools, and the national associations for near and long-term guidance, advocating for our value and mission, and bringing back these findings to our community in real time to guard our next steps. Second, we are ensuring that our current grants remain compliant with existing laws, and we are working with faculty submitting new grants to ensure their competitiveness. This work is being led by Vice Provost Kim McAllister and Assistant Provost Mary Muchani, largely through one-on-one sessions and with the support of Director Lori Gabrielle and the team in the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, as well as our terrific colleagues in the General Counsel's Office. Our top goal here is to keep our funded research on track despite these difficult setbacks and to support you as unexpected changes arise. And third, we are focusing on ensuring that our programs remain consistent with existing law. Most recently, DEI-based initiatives have been challenged through executive orders and through the Department of Education Dear Colleague letter. While these directives have been interpreted by some as bringing an end to all DEI programs, they mostly focus on reiterating a prohibition on discrimination based on protected categories. Now remember, we have been here before. Recall the SFFA versus Harvard and UNC Supreme Court ruling in 2023, requiring all college admissions offices to stop considering race in their admissions processes. Our legal office worked very closely and successfully with the offices of admissions in the college and in all the schools to bring Wake Forest carefully and thoughtfully into compliance. We are using the lessons we learned then to inform our approach now, which is ensuring we are in legal compliance with current directives. Our DEI initiatives are legal as long as they are open to all. Many of you have worked hard already to ensure that is the case for our existing programs over the past 2 years, and we are redoubling our efforts to ensure that new programs follow the law. In contrast to other universities, we are not shutting down any officer programs because we are already in compliance. These federal directives have been coming in rapid fire, They are confusing in their vague language, and there have been temporary restraining orders pausing some of them. The Strategy Steering Committee, which includes our talented colleagues that you see here, has been meeting frequently to allow us to be as coordinated, nimble, and responsible as possible in this quickly evolving environment. They have also been meeting across the campus with multiple groups to answer questions and provide support, from the University Senate to the college faculty, to the School of Business faculty, to the college chairs and directors, to the Staff Advisory Council. And they are currently creating guidelines that will help individuals think through their plans relative to current established law. And in fact, these guidelines will be posted tomorrow. I know these directives are creating understandable worry. Colleagues have shared fears with me that marginalized identity groups at Wake Forest may experience increased on-campus harassment, and that others may be emboldened to engage in such harassment. We have structures and processes in place to combat this. Our bias report system, the Office of Institutional Equity reporting system, and if necessary, engagement with the university police. The Office of Government Affairs and the Strategic Steering Committee have created an online platform of resources for our campus community, complete with points of contact, past messages, and guidance, including what to do if you're contacted by ICE, Homeland Security, or other federal agencies. I encourage you to visit this website frequently. I put a reminder on my calendar to just check in every other day. Faculty and staff alike have asked me, does the university have our backs in these new times? The answer is yes. If you're being harassed or discriminated against, the university has a clear process for investigation and support. If you feel unsafe, your supervisor and campus police stand at the ready. If you are worried about students challenging the content you are teaching in the classroom, you are protected by academic freedom and your dean and provost. But if you have concerns that your research or teaching make you a target in any way, then you need to reach out to your chair, your dean, and Stacy Petter or Tim McAllister for guidance. If you would prefer confidential support, please reach out to Jill Crenshaw, University the ombudsperson, who provides confidential guidance and helps colleagues find resolution in a safe, private environment. We recognize that these new concerns, on top of longer-standing campus culture ones, make this current moment especially fraught. Of course, we wish that were not the case. I want to remind you, however, that we have a larger-scale strategy underway to combat these challenges. The Campus Climate Survey administered a year ago, resulting in 3,865 completed surveys. Under the guidance of President Wenke, Vice President Jose Villalba, and Vice President Shea Brown, senior leaders are now examining the results of the data in their units to better understand our community's sense of belonging and comfort, and setting goals to address the most pressing professional issues faculty, staff, and students are facing. Meanwhile, human resources, with the support of the Wake Forest Leadership Cabinet, including the deans, are prioritizing salary equity and professional development that lead to more opportunities and advancement, even as HR, Stacy Petter, and the deans plan on studying workload concerns. All these new directives and the challenges tied to them invite questions about our future resources, especially when universities around the country are pausing hiring, pausing grad student admissions, and freezing budgets. We are not taking any of those actions at this time. As we look to the future bottom line, remember that the university has always been juggling revenues and expenses and will continue to be doing so. We know the changing landscape in college athletics means new costs. We can also anticipate needing new resources for research, given our grant-based changed landscape. We know we need more resources for near-term and comprehensive space planning, for the grounds, for more scholarship to broaden the socioeconomic composition of our student body, for competitive salaries, and for more funding for academic initiatives and student programming. All these needs for the future make financial resources an especially hot topic, if a perennial one. And let's face it, I won't be able to resolve all that for you here today, but I want to acknowledge the reality of this. Because what I can share, and this is all in collaboration with the cabinet and leadership, As my colleagues have explained in the past in How Wake Works and EVP presentations, Wake Forest relies on multiple sources of revenue: endowment income, private and public grants and awards, donor gifts, auxiliary income, think about the bookstore, Reynolds Village, and Grayland, and tuition revenue. Unlike public institutions, we don't have any state revenue. So this means that we remain, above all else, a heavily tuition-dependent institution. The revenue from our undergraduate education in particular, more than our endowment returns and other revenue streams, makes this university run. Wake Forest is paying close attention to our enrollment, despite the fact that we had our highest number of applications in most selected classes to ever matriculate this fall. Vice President for Enrollment Eric McGuire, EVP Jackie Travisano, President Wente, Deans Crassus and Rant, and myself, and all of senior leadership have been looking closely and carefully at our enrollment. First, we've been looking carefully at our current student body composition, and along with the Board of Trustees, are talking seriously about how we can better balance socioeconomic undergraduate composition in the future, working closely with our Senior Vice President, Mark Peterson, and his advancement team on fundraising that secures us more merit and financial aid to make this possible. We are looking at enrollment as we model out our financial projections across the next 5 to 10 years, and the potential margins we will need to finance our aspirations for academics, space, athletics, and student life, as well as student composition. And we are tying this work to planning around tuition costs and the potential for enrollment growth. To this end, in the near term, and with the board's support, the entering student body was targeted last year at 1450, and it came in 13 over at 1463. We are targeting next year's entering class at 1500. We are balancing these incremental increases with faculty and staff resources as needed. These small increases in students help us provide merit increases and meet new near-term costs, and puts us in a good position relative to so many of the other schools that need to meet new expenses, but absolutely lack our strengths and options. At times like this, it's important to remember our shared values, and ours run really deep at Wake Forest. Pro Humanitate is our foundation. We uphold our strong liberal arts education that fosters critical thinking, intellectual curiosity, and a broad understanding of the world. We embrace the teacher-scholar ideal, and that means we support the interdependence of exceptional teaching and society-changing research. We value highly student faculty and student staff engagement in a supportive, inclusive learning environment. And we believe that those values that we ensure that we produce brilliant, passionate, ethical graduates dedicated to the pursuit of meaning and purpose across their lifetimes. In the midst of all the headwinds, we put these values front and center each and every day. As I'm sure you know, we are preparing for our 10-year university-wide reaffirmation of our accreditation next year, and recently hosted a SACS Vice President on campus to help us get ready. While I don't want to jinx this, the accreditor shared her delight in our learning outcomes and described them as model work on a national scale. And then every spring semester, I meet with teams of external reviewers working with departments of schools on their program reviews and accreditation. No matter what the department or the school, these reviewers tell me again and again that we are providing some of the most innovative approaches to pedagogy and experiential learning that they have seen anywhere in the country. Meanwhile, we continue to use our strategic framework to guide our vision. We now have great strategic frameworks within each school. We've delivered strategic framework reports on lifelong learning and on campus life, and we are using our strategic framework to explore academic opportunities in Charlotte. Most importantly, this week, we shared new details and extended to each of you an invitation to the exciting visioning process for the 5 areas of academic distinction in the framework. These are in addition to, and not to the exclusion, of Wake Forest's commitment to excellence in teaching and research across the university. Under Vice Provost Kim McAllister's guidance, leadership task forces have been created to begin the initial work on 2 of the 5 areas: environment and sustainability, and neuroscience and society. This work has already revealed that Wake Forest defines environment and sustainability and neuroscience and society expansively. True to our belief that education is both knowledge and action, The cross-school and cross-disciplinary initiatives that are emerging from this process have the potential to be transformative for teaching and research all over our campus, as well as for our partnerships with local and global communities. Integrating efforts by teams composed of faculty, staff, and students across disciplines university-wide will be essential for our success. These interdisciplinary teams will include natural and basic scientists, business and policy leaders, humanists, artists, engineers, anthropologists, theologians, historians, ethicists, storytellers, and human health experts, among others. We need your help to make these visions uniquely Wake Forest, truly innovative, creative, and inclusive. You may be asking, why should we even consider doing this kind of aspirational visioning work now, when higher ed is increasingly under threat? Times of threat and insecurity are often the most important times to reaffirm our values and aspirations. The challenge becomes more clear, and the solutions may end up being even more aspirational, more innovative, more personal. Plus, we need to be prepared to take advantage of opportunities as they are bound to arise in the coming years. There are 3 ways to participate in this visioning work, and they are detailed on the Strategic Framework website. Faculty and staff are especially encouraged to participate in 2 in-person events on Monday, March 24th. You all received an email from Kim and me about these opportunities on Monday, and I really hope you'll plan to be there. We want and need your voice. We're also living on our values with our memorialization and slavery, race, and memory work. You will recall that Wake Forest is committed to building a memorial to the enslaved individuals who were sold in 1860 to establish Wake Forest's first endowment. Last fall, we invited you to review our ongoing work on the Campus Memorialization Project. That feedback has shaped Baskerville's design concepts for the memorial, currently under discussion with the Memorialization Steering Committee. At the same time, SRMP has shifted its efforts this year to support more curricular, co-curricular, scholarly, and public history-oriented engagements. We will be sending a delegation of faculty and staff to the University Studies Slavery Conference this month, and with the leadership of Assistant Professor in the Department of Politics and International Affairs and SRMP member Claire Crawford, we'll bring the Albany Freedom Singers to campus on March 27th in the Haynes Gallery from 6 to 8 p.m. And we are living out our values by committing ourselves to a university-wide conversation about freedom of expression. In September 2023, Wake Forest started an inclusive, multi-phase process to draft a new written statement of this commitment. We believe that true academic excellence and scholarly inquiry thrives in an environment where ideas are exchanged freely, rigorously, and respectfully. We believe that a commitment to academic freedom and free expression is grounded in the belief that students grow intellectually by engaging with diverse perspectives, even when those perspectives challenge their own. We as a university are intentional about fostering both open inquiry and a strong sense of community. Please, 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 read the draft statement generated by our faculty and staff colleagues and offer your feedback in this current comment period through the online form. The drafting group will review the feedback and make a recommendation to President Wente and myself before it goes to the Board of Trustees for review and approval. At this uniquely difficult time in higher ed, what can you do to help us all deliver on our shared Wake Forest values, above and beyond getting involved in the efforts I've just mentioned? First and most important of all, please keep doing what you are doing with your special expertise, with your passion, with your brilliance. Secondly, you can explain the vital importance of university research and Pell Funds and the work of higher ed in general to your non-academic family, friends, and communities. All of us in higher ed appear to have done a poor job of explaining all the ways society benefits from our 80-year-old partnership with the federal government, from working to create more access, if imperfectly, to powering up so much innovation and research across American society, to improving lives through treatment and technology. I also know that we all wish for, indeed outright all want, more community at Wake Forest. Even as I worry a bit that we may be romanticizing the past, an ideal of past community that maybe exists more in memory than in reality. But having said that, what do we mean when we talk about needing more community? What does it mean to truly be in community? Something we all feel we need more of. Well, frankly, we all need to help each other answer these questions. I have some thoughts, but mine are not the only thoughts by far. I think it means attending Senate, faculty, and staff advisory council meetings. I think it means attending lectures and performances and events hosted by our colleagues. I think building more community means more senior colleagues reaching out to our younger colleagues to support and mentor them, especially in these topsy-turvy times when new Wake Forest members can feel understandably confused and vulnerable. I think each of us can pull out Cat Director Betsy Berry's great discussion guide on freedom of expression and talk through the prompts with colleagues and students and the groups we belong to, and then use the feedback form to share what we think. I think the easiest way to build community is simply to show up more, to reach out to make a real connection with new and old colleagues and students alike, whenever and wherever you are able. It's actually really fun. It creates more energy. It's good for the soul. I always tell myself, and I'm only somewhat successful at it, to get out of my comfort zone. And I remind myself of a time when I did, and it made a difference. 3 years ago, I was walking on a campus sidewalk like I do all the time, minding my own business, when I found myself trailing a student who was on her cell. How many times has that happened to you? I could not hear exactly what the student was saying at first, but she was so distressed and so miserable that her voice kept rising and rising. And soon I heard her describing how horrible her Wake Forest experience was. So much so that she was telling the person on the line that she ruined the day she had ever decided to come here. When she went up to her, or when she hung up, I went up to her, completely against my better judgment. And I asked her how I could help. She was mortified. She told me she had been talking to her mom, and it really wasn't all that bad here. And we parted company a little bit later. Me, I was quite certain. I absolutely dramatically overstepped, and it was really, really wrong to do. But then this student did an amazing thing. She made an appointment with me 2 days later, and we talked. And we have kept talking off and on since then. And she is graduating this May, an accomplished, confident, creative, delightful Wake Forester. No one would ever know that once upon a time she thought she didn't belong here. Now, I'm not saying that I made the difference, but what I want to suggest instead is that reaching out, getting to know all kinds of other Wake Foresters, even when it seems awkward and forced, and in my case, probably inappropriate, is important. And I would posit that reaching out is how you build a foundation necessary for strong community. Wake Forest people have such a powerful sense of purpose and a deep, abiding desire to live out a set of shared values that we call pro humanitatis. And they've seen us through good times and bad times for nearly 200 years. These commitments, as they manifest themselves today, are palpable to everyone who comes to our campus. Again and again, students, faculty, and staff that we recruit, the speakers we invite, the parents, the alums, the fans, the conference goers, the community members who are coming to our campus, tell me they are drawn to Wake Forest because of our uniquely relational and outwardly facing learning community. Regardless of what lies ahead, I think we have all the right ingredients to thrive. We live the life of the mind and purpose to the needs of humanity. And if we can really be in community, we can face these higher ed challenges with courage and conviction. This is 2025, 9 years away from our bicentennial. By doubling down on our core purposes of teaching and learning, on our principles of freedom, of expression, of diversity and inclusion, and of looking out for one another, we can look ahead to our 200th anniversary knowing we are sending out into the world well-educated, compassionate young leaders of character who would deliver on making the difference we most need in this world. So thank you. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to that incredibly noble work, even in the toughest of times.
Thank you, everybody. So now we move to our question and answer portion of the afternoon. These questions were derived from an open forum that was provided to senators, to a variety of faculty groups across campus. And through sets of conversations, the precise questions that were posed have been aggregated across a variety of themes because there were so many. And, I mean, it's true. And to be clear, I provided versions of these questions to the provost ahead of time, so none of these are zingers at all. They are straightforward. However, they are sort of, they are serious questions that are parts of the operation of the university. So let's start with a key theme of our relationship, and that is shared governance. So how do you envision shared governance best occurring on campus? And what roles do you think faculty and staff should have in university decision making? And where do you think they should have more or less than they currently do?
You changed that question up a little bit. That's fine. That is fun. Well, I'm a huge advocate for shared governance. I am very, very appreciative. I know President Wente is too. I know all members of our community are. I think one of the best examples of shared governance, and that is the kinds of conversations and work we do together through the Senate. So I think the faculty Senate work is so important. I think the staff advisory council work is so important. Shared governance does so much for the university. It makes sure that we can have more transparency. It creates more accountability for everyone. It increases diversity and diversity of thought. It increases, I think, innovation and imagination around problem solving, and it increases engagement and builds powerful community and mission to the university. We all benefit from shared governance. I think we have a lot of good examples of good exchanges and decision-making happening through shared governance already. And I was when Sailor gave me the questions, I started to make a list of this. Each of the schools, for example, has very good, strong faculty governance. Tenure and promotion and curricular decisions are another example of really important shared governance. Faculty liaisons on board of trustee committees are an important example of shared governance. And I'm going to be immodest here because I helped make that happen when I was a senator 15 years ago, so I'm very proud of that. The academic freedom work is another way in which we have come together with faculty and staff literally writing the document together that all of you, the draft statement that we are reviewing together to think about and talk about and bring to the board, to the President Wente and the board of trustees. I think about the work that Jose Villalba and Ashley Brock and others have led through a memorialization, and that is using faculty and staff expertise and faculty to think about what is most important about memorialization with our students, the same with the Slavery, Race, and Memory program. I think about the work, I see John Curry sitting here, about the college, and I see Nate Plegaman sitting here, I think, about the college athletic committee and the Senate faculty athletic committee as well, and the critical work that has gone on there between athletics and the university and our faculty and staff colleagues. I think about the benefits committee. I know the voices of faculty and staff have fundamentally shaped what kinds of benefits we're doing. I could go on and on. I've hardly scratched the surface. I think the challenge, though, and that's why I think this is a really good question, is the relative invisibility of the shared meaningful work. I think it is happening all over the place, but most faculty are not going to staff advisory council. They're not going to Senate. They're not reviewing the websites to see who's on these committees or representing their interests to find out how they can share their perspectives. So I think we really do, and I really invite all of you to think about this. We need a better way to broadcast the importance of the voices in the room and the kinds of contributions they're making in all their diversity, and the importance of those contributions in decision making. So that's how I would answer that.
And I'll probe just one bit. I think that there's a sense that a lot of the direct involvement that faculty and staff have are in planning committees that seem to end without a conclusion, without decision-making that faculty and staff are actively involved in. How can that be either that perception change or that actually change?
Right. Well, I think one of the things is we have to communicate better about what is happening in the benefits, like in benefits committee or in any of these other committees. How do we communicate out? and communicate back. In some cases, it's going to be ultimately President Wente's decision or the Board of Trustees' decision, but how we communicate that back and communicate the importance of the voices at the table is going to be really, really important for that. And I think we have to think about how we do that better, and so that we're more responsible to the differences that these voices make in that decision-making process.
Moving on to our second question.
How are we doing? We're good.
So you mentioned issues of enrollment, but let's think further out than just next year. How do we expect to see cohort size for undergraduates, graduates, and professional schools change over, say, the next 5 years? And how do you expect that to impact the size of faculty and staff and the actual work and workload?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I know I've heard a lot of people, a lot of people ask me that question, and I'm going to frame it back a little bit, and just a little bit historically, not 25 or 50 years, I promise. But undergraduate enrollment at Wake Forest has always grown. And since it's been here, enrollment has grown by more than 1,000, since I've been here, by more than 1,000 students. So we have seen enrollment happen here. And we're in the enviable position of having great demand for our education here. I have a tough time imagining that we will not grow enrollment over time, over the next 5 to 10 years, but we will do so, as we've always done, with our top values in top of mind. When we grew by 500 with Wake Downtown, which is happening in the mid-teens, in the mid-2000 teens, with the Wake Downtown initiative, we carefully calibrated the number of faculty and staff we would need with that growth. And we know how to do that already, and we're getting, I think, even better in thinking about what we need and how we could do that with future growth. I think Wake is an interesting place in the quarter century that I've been here, God forbid. We have often been historically pretty reactionary and pretty opportunistic. We've seen opportunities and we've absolutely grabbed them. And I think sometimes we found ourselves in a rough patch and done Hail Mary. What President Wente's leadership, and one of the great things her leadership is bringing to Wake Forest, is an emphasis on thinking very carefully about planning midterm and long term. Where do we want to be in 10 years? What might we expect that we're going to have to deal with? How do we prepare for contingencies we haven't even been able to name? And enrollment planning is absolutely part of that work. So first with EVP Jackie Travisano, VP, I can say words, I really can. Eric McGuire, the VP for Enrollment, J.K. Brown, VP for Campus Life, and the deans and me, we are all talking about these things. We are all thinking about what this planning and modeling could look like going forward, as any institution should always be. And we will share preliminary findings as we do this work down the road with the trustees and more broadly. Now, in regard to the graduate and professional schools and enrollment, it's a tough time in the grad market across the country right now, even before the pause in grad admissions that we've seen with the new administration. Dean Crassus and her team are calibrating what we need to do in the graduate school and to support our faculty research and provide great grad school educations. And in terms of what we can afford, Dean Rampt and the business school are always looking at changing trends and figuring out what to do next. Dean Walker has created a DMIN program, a Doctor of Ministry, to take advantage of that market, and he has built out an MA in Religious Studies with the Department of Religious Studies that is a high-value, sought-after degree, doable in 1 year. In the law school, Dean Klein has grown enrollment by, I was going to say 500 students, and I doubt he's going to have a heart attack. No, by 50 students, very, very deliberately across. You're still, I know, be still, your heart. With 50 students to better balance the budget at a time when the law school is absolutely flying high with a very, very strong national reputation. I should tell you, the ABA accreditors were just here. They arrived on Saturday. They left right before noon today, and they told President Wente and me that the Wake Forest Law is a great school. They just shaped the whole thing, a great school. So kudos to Dean Klein in the law school. And there are no plans in the next 5 years to grow enrollment more then it's added 50. In SPS, we have 500 students already, and the numbers are growing. And such that SPS will break even soon and bring in new margin. That's going to help us. That's a good thing. So I think the point I want to make here is that the college and the schools are thinking in really nimble ways about how to take advantage of our academic excellence to create new programs, often interdisciplinary, and even cross-school. And the programs that have the potential to add to our academic reputation and have market demand and bring in some new revenue. So one of the things we're doing is thinking harder about 4+1 programs to create more bang for the buck. A Wake Forest undergraduate degree plus an MA in 1 year. So overall, bottom line here is that overall growth will be carefully planned. It's got to align with our strengths. It's got to align with resources we have at hand, and it's got to align with market demand. And to get back to your problem, what are we going to do? We would make sure we have the faculty and staff and support resources that go along with enrollment growth at the same time.
And to probe again a little further, if you think about this growth, there's also many plans that we all know about for structural change, growth in unlocking the core, the ground.
Yeah.
And how do you see that as a part of the future in conjunction with enrollment and program planning as changing what Wake Foresters' life is like, what it means to work as a Wake Forest?
The bottom line is here, I'm going to go back 2 points here. I want to go back to planning. We have a really unique opportunity, and again, kudos to President Wente and the whole cabinet, because we are thinking so carefully about not just enrollment growth, but about our academic rotation, about our spaces and how they connect to this. And so we're doing this work in a integrated, holistic way, and we're thinking about how we can help to stage this going forward in a way that serves all of us. So how will it impact? You're asking how will it impact faculty and staff? We've made a commitment, and the trustees have underscored the commitment to our college, our undergraduate college, being the core of literally the core in the space. So the whole Unlocking the Core effort is really intended to renovate the spaces that we have here and make more room for academics here on this campus. It does create new ways of thinking in terms of the grounds, because we're about to build a new administration building, and that new administration building will house finance and administration, advancement, and it will be on the grounds, and it will be for staff who are not student-facing. So the emphasis is going to be on student-facing faculty and staff. Student faculty already, but staff on this campus. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's kind of where we're headed.
For sure. So move on to the next topic, but it's also related to growth and change. Mm-hmm. And that's talking about AI and technology. Yeah. So what role do you see AI and AI broadly? There's lots of technology that's not necessarily AI related, but is playing in university operations now and again, next 5 years. And how do you think it will affect the work of faculty and staff and administration?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I just got asked this question at Parents Council a week ago. It's not even a week ago. I got it last Friday. So when you gave this to me, I pulled out my notes this morning. So I was really grateful for that one. And the bottom line is AI is everywhere at Wake Forest right now. It already is everywhere. And I'm very, very grateful to faculty, staff, for all the ways we have incorporated, I think, AI so carefully. And the ways that I think we are evincing leadership, I think, in the academic front lines. So what I told the parents was that we approach AI with a very thoughtful, ethical approach. We have this wonderful AI working group. And I saw Murr come in, and now I don't know. There he is, there, Murr. Okay. That we have this wonderful AI working group. Their recommendations ensure that AI is integrated in ways that align with Wake's mission and values. Right? All the things that you think. Ethically used, critical thinking. And then I see Betsy Berry here, and I think of the work of Kat and her team, which is there. Kat is fully embedded in doing this work and giving our faculty the tools they need to bring AI into the classroom and hosting training and workshops and short courses. I think faculty and staff alike see AI as a tool, not a replacement, right? going forward, and we use it in powerful ways. And I've been really impressed, and I blew the Parents' Council out of the water by giving examples of the way AI is being used in physics and theater, in law and business. I don't think the parents had a notion of how widely used it is. And I'd single out IS because IS has made all of our campus, given all of our campus access to some of the most important AI resources. And I'm thinking Copilot Chat, Gemini, Adobe Firefly, the Zoom's AI Companion, all of that making sure we have equitable opportunities. And we're leading AI conversations. The AI for Good conference is amazing. But what does this mean about AI in operations at WAG? Specifically, I think you were making reference to Workday, which is cloud-based software that it helps manage our finances and our HR work, and most recently, student info. Workday also uses AI for its analysis, and so I think that's why this is a really good question, right? How does AI play into this? This is where Workday and this is where I think we think about the VP MERS work. We think about Jackie Travisano, the AVP's work, and me too, in part of the Workday Steering Committee, where we're talking about governance. This is where we have to have a commitment, and we do, to thoughtful, ethical approach that's informed by the end users with a consensus-based approach on how we do this work in directing our use of AI in operations. I think at more granular levels, people are using aspects of AI in the work they do, but in terms of the big picture scale, I'm seeing Workday and that reliance on AI analysis as being the bigger picture here that's happening that we have to pay attention to.
And just one thing, I think paying attention to it, so many of the faculty comments that came about it were concerned about replacement and sort of loss of connection with students as a result of the AI.
Well, in particular, as a result of the AI, or in particular,
and
Workday, right?
Technology in general.
Right, and we're seeing this everywhere in our society. Mm-hmm. It's not unique to Wake Forest. It's not unique to higher ed. It's and I think Ann Hardcastle, Ann and I have talked a lot about this in the ways that we identify the realities of those relationships changing. And I know I see Dean Crassus, we've talked a lot about what this means in terms of the kind of advising that we do here and how we can make sure and strengthen our advising and keep it very personal. I was a big advocate for Workday for students because when we went through COVID, what I saw is we had terrible information. We were not able to keep our students safe. We didn't know where they were. We didn't know what inoculations that they had. I mean, it was really frightening to me. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but it was really scary as hell to me when I saw this. And I became a very strong advocate for Workday because we could get all of that information and have a much better sense of this community as a whole and connect up the dots. I also know that we don't get everything we want with new systems like this. And one of those systems is what you and the faculty are naming. And I think that's why I've really appreciated through the Workday Steering Committee and the governance conversations that we're having, that we're also thinking about the end users and the experience of end users when they are losing things and that are really important, that are our values. So how do we make sure we meet those values either through that system or in other ways as well? It's a real issue, and it's happening. We know it's happening everywhere, and we don't want it to happen here in a way that harms us or that harms our relationships with students.
Agreed, and it's happening right now in ways that we can't really predict.
That's true, and that is true.
Time-wise, how do we have time-wise?
One more?
One more. Let's see. I'll go to an external regulation one of the last little tidbits. So in the questions that we received, there are lots of Wake Foresters who they're hoping for more public stances from Wake Forest on the executive orders and the sort of political situation we're facing. Do you expect at some point that we're going to be making such pronouncements? And what determines framing for us doing that?
So, thank you for giving me such a
softball
Yeah,
question.
sorry.
Really. So I think I have two ways to get at this, and you're not going to be absolutely thrilled with my answer. I think the first thing is that we're paying really close advice to the Strategy Steering Committee, and the Strategy Steering Committee advises us not to make a Wake Forest-based response formally at this time. There's just too much emotion, and there's too much rhetoric and too much bluster right now. So that's not going to be helpful for us, especially when our top obligation over and over again is to understand and follow the law. In addition to this, and this is something that I feel comfortable sharing with this group, especially in regard to DEI, we have members of our own community who have asked us not to bring attention to DEI work in particular at this time for fears that either their programs or they themselves will be made more vulnerable by their visibility. So we also want to be respectful of those asks. So in terms of timing, and I see Jimmy Broughton here and Julia Jackson listening, we're working very carefully, very closely with our legislators. We're working with other schools. We're working with national associations to strategize carefully about when that time will be. When can we talk about this? And how we end up using our voices most effectively. What we do not want to do is fan the rhetorical flames, right? We don't want to just fan the flames and then put a target on our back that will make us less able to deliver on our mission and that threatens or endangers anyone in our community. These are really, really hard tensions, and we're doing our very, very best to think carefully and strategically about this. But that does not stop any of you from writing and calling your legislators. And in fact, I had that in an earlier version of my speech, but I took it out because what I was going to say, I was going to add a proviso. The proviso is, please do not use your wakeforest.edu. That would be my proviso. But please make your voices known. This isn't easy, and on one hand, it's not unique to our political process that we have all this rhetoric, but in other ways, it's dramatically different, and it feels very difficult to be strategic, to wait and figure out how we move all of these pieces together to have the strongest, most powerful voice we can with Wake Forest, but with all of our partners.
Thank you. And so, this comes Thank you, Provost Gillespie. Thank you, everyone, for attending.